Hello, fellow kinda critics. Today I had the amazing pleasure of not just watching Instant Family, but watching it twice. So rather than talk shit about a childhood franchise that is cannibalizing its fan base while attempting to recapture a decade of nostalgia, I'll be talking about the second banana comedy that will probably place second in the box office and likely garner a sequel that will probably never make as much as the first one, because when in the history of modern comedy films has that ever been a done deal? The reason why Instant Family is so interesting to me is that it is a movie that is both forgettable but hard to put down. The message, the tone is marred by tropes, marketing, and familiar, funny moments, and yet it is trying so hard to be a very genuine, behind the scenes kind of film, as well as everything it wants to say about adopting kids. In short, it is the most genuine and disingenuous film of this year. Let's look at the first aspect that completely breaks some of the film's sense of purpose, the acting. What works really well are the performances by Rose Byrne, Isabel Moner, Octavia Spencer, and Tig Notaro. These women stray a great line in the more emotional scenes, while also having the more enjoyable characters to see on screen, and I could tell that the passion of telling the story is what makes much of this work on their end. Then we got my old boy Mark Wahlberg, who is no stranger for slice-of-life comedies like this one, but still makes more misses in delivery and even less hits on his improv. The post Other Guys has not been kind to Wahlberg's sense of humor, and when he's over-exaggerating or providing some interesting dynamics to this role, you're basically looking at a more reserved father from the last two Daddy Holmes movies. The surprising child roles played by Gustavo Quiros and Juliana Gamiz was less irritating than I expected. But that's not saying too much. Maybe Gamiz really sold the role of annoying toddler too well. But god, does that screaming take me back to an airport flight to Honolulu. Quiros, on the other hand, plays a more reserved child who clearly suffered traumatic and emotional abuse, only to have him deliver lines where he says sorry a lot and does something stupid that I thought I wouldn't even do, because I'm pretty stupid. This kind of segues into why the story made it really hard to care about most of these characters and the emotional setup that surrounds them. The plot mostly hits the thread of Moner's teenage adopted child betrayal, which creates a subtle rift that works in more ways than one, but the story always makes sure to backpedal back to the single location where the adopted parents, played by Rose Byrne and Wahlberg, talk about how hard it is to be parents and how relatable it should be. Then we go back to their home life, argue with the kids, have a montage of the good times, another argument, filter, rinse, repeat. It's not like I expected a creative and dynamic plot structure from the likes of Sean Anders, but when they speak so highly about the authenticity and label true story in the marketing, I left the theater twice with an emotional connection with situations, not with the characters, nor the scenes, nor the comedy. The movie was longer than it should be because of how the comedy went to the school of improv lines and rudimentary editing. You get a wide shot with the actor in the center, and give them all the time in the world to hit a few zingers, the rest of the cast laughs, or have two characters in the same shot riffing on each other. And the only time I ever laughed were at the dynamic that felt properly established between the two social workers played by Spencer and Ataro, who play their characters to a specific beat, work off each other's lines, and build each setup quickly for the scenes. Every time someone else tries to do this, it was followed with 10 seconds of silence, repeating the joke, and staring. Plus you get your usual punchline at Quiros' character's expense by having him hurt 5 or 10 times for the audience's attention spans. Yet, out of any dramatic term, the movie tries to have one scene where he injures himself on accident in slow motion and taken to the most serious turning point. Wow. Overall, the emotion that was there was deflated by a later scene, and the actors that actually cared about what needed to be said about adopting children were eventually boggled down to pedophile jokes, child abuse jokes, and montages. The editing was competent with some of its transitions, but became a vacuum of monotony that brought improv lines and static scenes of nothing. Instant Family pulls at both ropes of someone's heart, the audience's hearts, and tugs until there's nothing but indifference and confusion on what we need to feel or care about.
With so many movies tackling the subject matter of parenting and families with a more laser focus and dedication to the craft, while also applying some funny and relatable situations, you would think that Instant Family would have more passion than the marketing and committee that kept it on a leash. 3 stars out of 6, decent time waster on the holidays at home.